Okay guys, now let's talking about carrying a kukri. Now traditionally, when you get a traditional kukri, it comes like this. It's a wooden sheath that's covered in buffalo skin, and then on the back you'll find two small accessory knives. One is used for a fine little edge, and the other one is used as a sharpening tool. And whenever you've got a burr or something on the blade, it's kind of like a file. It's hard, and now the game is to go along like this and kind of scrape it and sharpen the blade. I don't use them. They are good though for making small holes into leather and stuff, so I keep them on there. But this is the traditional, and normally there's a brass cap here on the end. Mine's come off over the years. They're fairly durable, but this, what they call buffalo hide, is paper thin. I mean, it tears like crepe paper. And then the leather loop maul is okay. What I recommend you do is, if you like this style of sheath, is recover it once you get it. Now, also, the way a kukri goes in, it goes in and it's kind of snug. Wiggle, 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 and then you go in. Something you never want to do is this. I'm trying to can see it. You never want to grab a kukri like that and yank it out. Notice where that edge is. That's just two pieces of wood with a little bit of something sticking it. If it slices through, it's going to slice through right there. And if it does, it comes out and will take those fingers off. My godson severely hurt his hand because he was holding onto a kukri sheath when somebody else tried to pull it that didn't know how to pull it. So you'll feel it bind up and then it gets loose again. So to pull a kukri, you pull it up till it binds and then kind of rock it and it comes out. It's nice and snug. You'll never drop it. It'll never fall out. This is the traditional style way that most of them come from when you get in a traditional type kukri. Now what I've done is I've recovered mine. I took my standard kukri, which is a villager. This type is called a panel wall. It's a full tang with two large bolts or metal pieces going through. Mine I modified and put some wood bolts instead. Long story. So I recovered it with a piece of heavy canvas that I sewed up the back and then glued another piece over the top. Made it much tougher, more field worthy. Now my kukri before this, I simply took the stock sheath and wrapped it up with good duct tape. It lasted for 20 years. So that's the way to do it. Now the way to pull one of these is grasp it like this. Notice, not like that, like this, and pull it out. Should it slice through, it ain't gonna get your fingers. But just remember, when you're taking it on and off, that is the weak link in any kind of kukri sheath. Now, the cold steel one comes with this sort of skin. I don't necessarily call it a sheath. I leave it on this because this one predominantly rides in my truck. It does have a belt loop, and it rides in my truck, or I hook it to the side of a pack. I very rarely have ever carried this on my belt. Were I going to do that, I would generate a much bigger, more robust type of sheath. Now I got one more sheath design I want to show you. That's a custom sheath that I prefer for if I was going to get one, make one right now, and didn't already have these, type of sheath I'd carry. I'll be right back with you and I'll show you that one. Okay guys, here's the sheath I was talking about. This sheath was made by my friend Micah, and it represents what I consider to be the best carry sheath for a kukri in the field. Now, as you see, it's got a slit up here. The snap retains it, and then you just pull the kukri straight out. Remember that binding and pulling out? That doesn't happen here. The end can be narrow to fit the entire blade. It just simply slides in and then snaps. The sheath is heavy leather and it's sewed across the entire length, and just past the bend is where it tightens up, so it's solid up here. So when you pull it out, it just comes straight out. You just hook it up under there, put it back like that, snap back, snap, pull, put back, snap. Can't get any easier than that. Uses a belt loop sewed onto it. And if you can't find a sheath like you want, I recommend coming up with something like this. And there's several tutorials on the web on how to make it. If not, take my video, show it to somebody that works leather, and get them to make you one. If my sheaths ever wear out, this is exactly the sheath that I'm going to go to. So simple to take it in and out. Okay, now we'll move on to the next section. Hang on, I'll be right back with you. Okay guys, now let's get some uses for this. The anatomy of the kukri blade is this. This part up here is the sweet spot whenever you're wanting to chop, to make a point or something like that. This point back here is used for draw knifing and things like that. Now, let me demonstrate. To draw knife, debark or something like that, you want to secure your target. You know, hook the knife like this with two hands and pull to you. Let me stick this out a little further where I can anchor it. To draw knife, I don't want to just pull flat to me. That's planing. I want to draw like this, so like that. See how it runs up the edge? Using my whole edge for slicing, carving, debarking, etc. I can very easily strip bark, especially if I'm trying to make long thin strips to weave together to make cordage. It's relatively easy to do it with this instead of a straight knife. I can sit and draw in long slices and get very thin pieces to later weave together into cordage. Also, now, like I said, planing. Now, I've got a piece of wood for whatever reason I need to make smooth. That's where I hold the knife square. This section is used for that, and I pull straight to me. It makes very fine, almost like a chisel, shavings coming off of there. Just like that. Makes it very smooth. That's what this part of the kukri is used for. Now, for putting a point onto something, that's when you want to use this part of the blade up here. This is the heaviest, the farthest away from you, you get the most action. So, if you chop back here, see, it's biting and you're getting cuts, but your weight is really ahead of you. If you chop up here in this part of the blade, you get bigger cuts. You go too far and get up on the tip, you get shallow cuts. And that's the idea of being kind of precise. If I'm trying to, let's say, rough out a bow, I can use this part to take the bulk of the wood off in relatively quick, rhythmic manner. But now let's say I've got it fairly thin, now I don't want to take off much. I'll choke up on it and do like this. See, I take small chops now, as opposed to my big chopper. So, again, this is your draw knife. This is your shallow chops. This is your big chops. The point is rarely used on a kukri, but does a pretty good job as a digging tool, like that. I have also done this before with a kukri and wallowed out a hole in a target. It'll make a pretty good sized hole, about a ½ inch diameter, but you can use it for that. Okay, now let's go look at chopping big stuff. Stay with me, guys. Right back. Big, heavy, dead piece of black gum. And we're going to start with the kukri shaped machete because I want to show you the difference. Start over here. Now, a machete gets its speed and power from the power to cut by speed. So, and you see it does a pretty good job barking in, but it's thin, it's fast, and it takes a lot of arm effort. Now this will bog down most chainsaws. So it can do a lot of work in a hurry. So what you got to do is just keep an eye on it and take your time and chop. get an idea. Now a real kukri. See what I say? That's about the same amount of effort as far as my arm. I'm not hitting like you do with an axe. Whap. I'm just relaxing my hand and allowing the blade to do the work. Now, in about the same amount of time, I went double as deep as that in a much bigger area. This, I could probably cut this apart in like, 10, 15, 20 minutes. With that, it'd be 30 to 40 to maybe an hour. And I'll guarantee you my hand will get tired before I get done. But each one has a distinct advantage. Now when you're cutting something this big, you want the thick. You want heavy. You want something that's going to bite in and stay in. And the kukri shaped machete is just a little bit thin. But this has an outstanding use. We're going to go to that right now. Stay with me.
Okay, guys. Now, here's what these little thin kukri shaped machetes are outstanding for. They're great brush clearers. For vines, stuff like that, they are far superior to that bigger kukri because they're light and they're quick, and you can just clean with them right quick and take out vines and stuff like that, like what they are, a machete. Now, when you get something fairly larger like this, what you want to do is, with this or the kukri itself, you want to lean against it. This strains the fibers against it. Now, you want to hit it right in here. This part will bite and slice on impact, making a clean cut, just like this. One nice shear right through. One nice shear. Saves you a lot of time and effort. So what you want to do is always lean your wood that's live and you're trying to clip it off, strain the fibers, and then you want to hit in this area, the sweet spot, so it bites and slices.